Dungeon Masters of Reddit, what is the most useless item you gave your party that they were still able to exploit? Bagpipes of invisibility. They grant invisibility as long as they're played. Silence is one hell of a spell. You could probably drive some guards crazy with that. Bagpipe music always somewhere nearby that never ends. I gave my players a pig whistle. Once a day, they could blow the whistle and summon a pig. I hadn't given too much thought about it, but they used it constantly. They would send pigs off to spring traps. They would have impromptu luau's to curry favor with peasants. They never had to worry about rations again. Pork for dinner. I thought it was just a useless throwaway item, but they sure proved me wrong. Good times. One time our dam gave us a Rod of Summon boat as a joke, except we rolled a nat 20 for the summon and got a whole galleon. The campaign quickly became pirate themed as we became privateers. The jar of endless lard. I put it in as a joke and somehow they managed to set a forest in fire with a timed fuse. Also, having them covering various body parts in said lard just to set it in fire for extra damage wasn't good. I use my fire fist. DM, but you don't have a fire fist. Lights greased up arm, I do now. Father of a DM here. During lockdown our 24-year-old son was living at home, so couldn't play with his usual crew, so we agreed to Sunday morning family DD sessions and actually quite enjoyed it. His mom was a cook who had a magic ladle that could produce any liquid. I asked if she could throw the contents. He said it would have a 5-meter range. He was expecting her to produce a healing soup, and he had to Google hydrofluoric acid when I said she should lob that at some kobolds. The lesson here is never use the word any when making a magic item. At least not without caveats. For example, if the item was specified as a wooden ladle that can produce any liquid, that trick would only work a few times before it was weakened enough to be destroyed. The same goes for the ability to throw its contents, provided you demand a roll. There's always the chance that trying to fling hydrofluoric acid at your enemies from a magic ladle can backfire on you or your party. I love the idea that it can make any liquid but has mundane durability. It raises the stakes to a decision like life-saving acid now or delicious soup forever. Anything is a liquid if it's hot enough. Ah yes, magnetohydrodynamics, we've made a molten metal plasma launcher. One of the players had gotten married to a pretty young NPC who wasn't an adventurer. So I gave him a ring of conjugal visits that would transport him to his wife for an hour, then send him back to the adventuring group. The ring worked twice a week and was intended as a joke. When the party was beaten up from a hard combat, he used the ring and asked his wife where the nearest temple was, then bought healing potions from the local cleric. Soon this became a thing: cure disease, healing, whatever. The ring became this guy's quick trip to the pharmacy, although he also always found a few moments for a quickie with his wife. Eventually he woke the up cleric at 3 a.m. to buy more potions. So I had the cleric throw a fit and yell at him never to come back. The player went back anyway, and the next time there was a bouncer at the temple door telling him to get lost. The player went back anyway, and the next time there was a bouncer at the temple door telling him to get lost. That's when you have his wife enter the temple instead of him, and then you use the ring once she's inside. Or have her go in and get them while he waits outside. Maybe not exactly what you were looking for, but I've been looking for an excuse to tell this story. I had a party of wizard, ranger, druid, summoner and barbarian back in Pathfinder 1e. All of the party members except for the barbarian had some kind of pet, be it an animal companion, familiar, or just the menagerie of animals the druid accumulated. A few sessions in, and my barbarian sends me a text while the party's setting up camp. The barbarian volunteers to take a watch, and the next morning the rest of the party wakes up to the barbarian's new pet, Brock de Rock. Brock was a stone with eyes and a mouth crudely carved into him. Brock goes on adventures with the party and is mostly forgotten about until a premature fight with that arc's end boss. The boss wipes the floor with the party, leaving everyone unconscious except the barbarian who has single-digit HP. Not wanting to TPK, and with the boss in surprisingly worse shape than I expected, I have him taunt the barbarian and start to fly away. Brock is going to take his attack, the barbarian says, throwing his pet with all his might. Create max damage on the roll, boss drops to -1 hit points and faceplants at the barbarian's feet for the coup de grace, also performed by Brock to finish what he started. And that's how our party's pet rock gained a temporary flight speed of 40 feet, and favored enemy, verbose sorcerers. We had a rock that if you were knocked out with it, you were completely invulnerable while unconscious. You had to successfully hit yourself or whoever and take damage from being knocked unconscious from a rock to the skull. That rock caused so much chaos. And death. And life. And permanent head trauma to NPCs we were trying to rescue. So basically a tranq gun for all your tranq gun needs? My BF had a normal rock that ended up being the most useful item in the game. A lot of things were resistant to everything but bludgeoning damage for some reason. He also used it to stop doors from shutting so they didn't get trapped in a room, and he would toss it in random spots to set off traps. I gave them a folding boat. Say a magic word and the small shoe box magically expands into a boat. Not 5 minutes later, Earl, the ducking rogue, has thrown this box from the roof and said the magic word, creating the only instance of 20 dice rolls I've ever had to do. I don't know raw rules as written, or rye rules as intended, if this is allowed, but damn it, throwing a boat at people is too damn fun to not allow it. Always be wary of giving your players anything that expands or increases in size at will command. They will toss that thing in a dragon's throat, and then you as the DM have to suffer calculating the tensile strength of dragonflesh versus the amount of material impacting it. A friend did something very similar and gave his party the ability to shrink their metalcraft down to the size of a handheld ball so they could carry it around and they didn't have to deal with getting back to the ship at the end of quests. Cue several months later when, in the midst of a dragon fight, one player teleported to the dragon's nose, stuck the ball inside the dragon's nose, and expanded it, thus blowing the dragon's head apart from the inside. Once got snapped up in the jaws of an adult blue dragon who then flew his 80 feet directly in the air, and while I was in there I activated my immovable rod inside the dragon's throat. The dragon failed his roll on carefully moving backwards as to basically regurgitate the rod, so he was stuck. One of the other players used his sword of sharpness to cut off his wing, great rolls back to back there, and the dragon was stuck 80 feet in the air. The only non-melee character was me as a sorcerer, and I was out of spell slots, so we just left it there. We stumbled upon it an in-game week later, where it tried to bargain for its life back and its freedom. I had just learned fly, so I struck a deal saying I would release him under the conditions that he no longer harm any of my party or myself, and that he had to be available at my beck and call. Now I'm a level 10 wild magic sorcerer with a one-winged dragon who's eternally bound by honor to me. I gave the party a tiny bag of holding made of human skin. I don't remember why. They were trapped in a house fighting a zombie horde and they used the skin bag, turned it into a sort of Molotov bomb, used a spell to have it fly over the zombies, who follow the human skin away to be blown up. It was a 45-minute saga to get to that point, and it was easily the funniest and most creative moment I've seen from the DM side. I gave the party a tiny bag of holding made of human skin. I don't remember why. The fact that you don't remember why you gave your party a tiny bag of holding made out of human ducking skin is deeply concerning. Gave the party a magic whistle that summons pigeons. The party somehow used it to murder an orc commander by turning his armor into bread, having the pigeons eat it all, and then shooting him in the face with a blast of lightning. This is the first comment I've read where I think that was one heck of an out-of-the-box solution. Remove the orc's armor bonus with pigeons. I mean, I feel like if you can turn his armor into bread you are already 99% of the way there. Not a DM but my friend is, and he told me about a sword he gave a party. He called it the normal sword. When his players asked if there was anything special about it, all he would say is, it's just a normal sword. In practice it was so normal that it would negate all magic. His party never figured that out though. We used a jug of alchemy to waterboard someone with vinegar. It's also been used to create mayo. Multiple times I've used the mayo to mark a target just before it runs away. Why else would it be an option? Players, I'm sorry, but this incredibly easy and obvious puzzle can't be solved. Also players, yes, this useless item can be used for genocide. Priorities, man.